Welcome back to Music Theory Logic. Andrew here, and today is a special music theory breakdown, mainly because it's the last music theory breakdown of 2021. It's hard for me to believe this time has already come. For those of you who've been watching all year, thank you so much for the support. You know the drill. If you have any songs you want me to break down, leave them in the comments. You'd help me out a ton by subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into the track of the day. The track I'm doing today is called Better Days. It's by NEIKED, Mae Muller, and polo-g. Let's go ahead into the logic session. So I was debating if I should do a special song for the end of the year. I had already been working on this one because I like the track a lot. I like the artists. It's also up there on the charts, and it has been for some time, so you probably are familiar with the track. And then I thought the hook, Better Days, hopefully 2022 brings some better days since it's been quite a couple years we've had. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's listen to my breakdown. If you haven't heard these before, I'm not playing the original track. I'm just playing my recreation of this. You're hearing some live bass that I played. If you saw my YouTube short, I did that while I was playing it. This is not totally on par mix-wise with the original track, but I'm confident I got the right notes. And after we hear this shorter version of the track, I'm going to talk about where those notes came from. So here is my take on Better Days by NEIKED, Mae Muller, and polo-g. You all are awesome. Sorry if I said any of your artist aliases incorrectly. Here it is. Comes the hook. Cool. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Once again, that's shorter than the original track. That's because we're not hearing vocals, and those vocals really take this track to the next level. So hopefully you enjoyed that enough to keep watching. Let's talk about the music theory. This song is in the key of C minor. C minor has 3 black keys. We refer to those black keys as flats. The rule on this is basically we have one of every letter, and if we are counting a scale and we've already used the former letter, in this case D, we could have called this D sharp, but since we already used D, we're calling that E flat. So the notes in C minor are C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. Awesome. So those notes sound like this. Now, if you've seen my music theory text below, it's linked below. I've had any critique on it. It's that it's too simple. That's because music theory really is that simple. Every single minor key that we have, we could say minor keys sound in general sadder or darker. In this case, it doesn't really sound sad, if you will, but it's sort of the texture of the 7th chords that drive that home. So if you were to have that book, the simplest version of that key is A minor. If you find the note A on your piano that looks like that, and you play from A to A, all white keys, you would have played the A minor scale. All right, so if we take that and we drag it up to any note where this first note is, it's that minor. So if I move this up to C, now it's in the key of C minor. All right, cool. There's only really 3 other elements for us to talk about. The main section that comes from the scale is the melody and the chords. The chord progression we're hearing is the whole time we get an F minor 7th, followed by a B flat major chord, followed by an E flat major 7, then a C minor. All right, now music theory isn't like a firm science. It's not like if you got the best music analysts around that all understand music theory, and you had them chart out a song, we can actually make arguments for it being in different keys. Some charts I found called this in B flat. Now, if it were in B flat, we would be calling it B flat mixolydian, which is a fancy way of saying it's the 5th mode. One thing about that mode is it makes the 5 chord, in this case in F, makes it minor. So that's one option. If we were talking mixolydian, this would be like a 5, 1, and then up to 4, down to 2. So whether we call it a 5, 1, 4, 2 in the key of B flat mixolydian, or we call it a, let's see here, a minor 4, a major 7, a major 3, and a 1 chord. We're saying the same chords, we're just changing how sort of the analysis. So I'm calling this in C minor. I think it's going to work for this whole analysis, and it's a little bit simpler. There's less barrier to entry than thinking mixolydian. Just remembering that word is harder than remembering major, right? Check out some of my other videos about the modes if you're curious about that stuff. So let's go ahead through the layers of the track. Starting with that chord progression, we have that playing the whole time. Those chords on their own sound like this. So the F minor 7, B flat, E flat major 7, our fill. Now this lead up here is going D, C, B flat, A, back to B, B flat. Now those notes are all in the key that I just showed you. The melody in this makes it a C minor 7th, so that's one interesting thing. Also, this melody looks pretty like in the key of B flat because it's resolving to this B flat note. So again, the other analysis would make sense. In many ways, the greatest music of all has multiple analyses because it's not super regular or straightforward or like the same things you hear on a lot of songs. So again, my hat's off to the producers of this track. I think NEIKED produced a lot of it, and thank you to NEIKED. I put him on my Instagram, and he actually responded. So for those of you artists out there, when somebody tags you and they're working on your song, you can make their day by responding. So let's go through the melody. When the song starts, we're starting with basically a filter, a low-pass filter of the melody and the bass line coming in. The melody on its own, I have 2 layers playing it. One is a synthesized brass instrument. The other is Logic's default brass instrument. The notes we're going A flat, G, F, E flat to D, down to B flat. Then we go up an octave to B flat, G, B flat, G, B flat, G, and then it goes D, C. All right, so those sound like this. All right, so again, no note that's not in our key of C minor. B flat mixolydian would have exactly the same notes as C minor. This beginning part, A flat, G, F, E flat to D. This is like 6, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Goes down to our B flat, up an octave. And then this over here is really just like an arpeggio of the minor 5 chord in the key of C minor. So that's a G minor chord. That also is the top half of a B flat major 7, the top half of the E flat major 7, which we have here. So it all works. All right. The next section to talk about is the drums. Now, the drums are super standard. They are mixed really, really well, which makes them smack, make your speaker systems smack. But basically what's happening, we have 4 on the floor. We're at 110 beats per minute. So the kick is on every quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Our hi-hats are on every second eighth note. So kick on 1, hi-hat on and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and. So that's happening the full time. If I get rid of our backbeat, it sounds like this. That's like the boots and cats. And we added the backbeat in. Now, a backbeat is usually played by a snare or a clap. In this case, it's both. So the first one, we get the snare sound. The second one, beat 4, we get both snare and clap. And that repeats the whole time. And if you listen to that original, in each measure, the second backbeat or the second snare hit is bigger. And I think it's made possible by an additional sample there. So the drums on their own sound like this. Again, this subtle variation of adding the clap on beat 4 really changes those drums a lot. Cool, and that's not changing what we wrote or what they wrote, but it's more like sound design. It changes what it sounds like. So up to now, we talked about the chords and our drums. Those sound like this together. Nice. Now, one thing I just copied that MIDI over. Down here on the bottom line, this is our sustain pedal. If you check out my video, how to make virtual pianos sound more like real pianos, that's one of the elements to it. I'm not doing what I tell you to do, which is randomize MIDI. So these are all the same color and they're right on the beat. So I would have changed that in my own track to make it feel even more organic. And this down here, this is your rightmost pedal on the a piano. So if you have an acoustic piano or you've played on one, if you play the rightmost pedal, it's going to make the notes drag out. We call that sustaining. It's sustaining the notes. So a lot of popular musicians call that a sustain pedal. And if you study piano, they will call that a damper pedal. I get the question a lot from my students on like the history of that, and I'm the first to admit I don't really understand why we would call it two such different things, but I will say there's other examples in music where the popular world calls something like a chord very different than the classical music world. Another example is suspended harmonies. Cool. So for the most part of the song, all we have to talk about is one, layering. So that same chord progression happens on strings, and it happens later in the mix. You can kind of hear those violins ringing out. It's really low in the mix. It gets louder as it goes on. That sounds like this. Oh, let me get rid of the bass real quickly. All right, so no strings here. Here come the violins. So again, it's a beautiful chord progression, but it's the same chords happening throughout. They're really the same channels, just on violins as well. And again, that just adds to the sound design in the track. It feels really good with the vocals because we're building towards the hook here. This is all verse. Everything cuts out for the last two chords. The bass line does its pickup, which we're about to talk about, and then the violins come back in, and this is our hook section. After the hook section, we get this instrumental hook, which is the main melody, the same thing that we heard from the beginning, only it's not filtering. All right, so the bass line, this was really fun to play. I encourage every one of you that's like making song, or say you really like a song and there's something about it that you like more than others, if you try to learn to play that on your instrument, it's going to help you to feel what it felt like to play it, and that helps us to better understand it. Hard for me to even explain it. So most of what the bass line's doing are root notes. So we're over an F minor chord, we play an F. Over a B flat, we're playing a B flat. Over E flat, we're playing an E flat. Over C, we're playing C. All right. There's a rhythmic motif, fancy way of saying rhythm that repeats. We're going first two quarters, quarter, quarter, and then this is a dotted quarter into a 16th note, a dotted 8th note into a 16th note. This is also referred to as syncopation, and that happens in the same pattern. So F, 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 F. Then we go down, we do steady 8th notes, 4 in a row. B flat, B flat, B flat, B flat. Then the next time that same rhythm repeats over the next two notes from our chord progression. So we get E flat, E flat, E flat, E flat. So that's the same as our F motif. And then 4 8th notes in a row for C, which is again the same as the B flat motif. Cool. Finally, we have these fills. These fills are totally in key. They're sort of leading up to notes. So we don't get any fills for the first measure. The second measure, we get this quick fill. It's steady 16th notes. It's playing D, E flat, F, E flat. So in our key, this is like 2, 3, 4, 3. But again, using scale notes going into our next note. So it's kind of like a fill. It makes it more interesting. And then finally, at the end, we get a similar fill just done from a lower note in the scale. So we're on C, our 1 chord, as we're calling it, in the key of C minor. Then we do 1, 2, 3, 2, or C, D, E flat, D. Cool. The bass on its own sounds like this. Now, on a side note, the bass you're hearing are 2 basses together. I'm rolling off the low notes from my live bass. So this audio 2, this is live bass. And then this picked bass is the computer. So we'll watch the computer, but you'll hear both of them. So here is the bass on its own. Nice, you're hearing me add this note each time. So let's put that in. And that note. Cool. So let's add that with our drums. That sounds like this. Cool. If we add back in our pianos, this is going to be like the full verse section: bass, drums, and piano. Sounds like this. Cool. And then finally, the hook section. So the hook section has all the different stuff we've talked about, but finally together. So we hear the melody over the full chords, the full drums, and the full bass. We'll watch the melody, but that section sounds like this. All right, and that basically gives you all of the different parts from Better Days. If you have any questions about what you just saw, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm always happy to answer questions. You can also shoot me an email. I love connecting with those of you out there finding this helpful, or other music producers just trying to talk shop. Once again, my name's Andrew. If you found this helpful, you'd help me out a ton by subscribing to the channel. By the time you see this, it's probably going to be 2022, and hopefully 2022 makes 2021 look like a bad year, and COVID's behind us, and things return to what it was like in 2019 pre-pandemic, but who knows. In the meantime, we can always make music, or we can always focus on that which we can control. So I'm going to keep making content that hopefully helps those of you out there. Hopefully you keep tuning in, make music. Remember, have fun making music, be kind to your fellow human being, and I will see you next time. Thanks again for hanging out.